Grandpa, where were you the day the Scranton Strangler was caught?
Well, I was there, kiddo. I was there.
This is my website that I started to get the ball rolling. Can you imagine the indignities that this man had to go through so that the media could all make him look like a patsy, just take his freedom away? Just like that. His future's gone.
George Howard Skub is a devil name.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't feel good about them letting that man out of prison. I get that the documentary had enough evidence of a mistrial, and somehow Skub got enough money together to get this appeal going, but it's just creepy. Like, if it wasn't Skub, who was it? Or worse, what if it was actually him, and now he's just out there somewhere?
So, should be good to go.
Test, test, test.
You know, I'm always watching my back. You know, it probably was Skub. You know, if it wasn't Skub, then why did all these stranglings stop as soon as he got put away?
I know. I've been watching the news. People keep texting me, ask me if I'm alright. I get it. I want to trust the system, but trusting the system right now means that the man who attacked me is just out there right now. And I was so sure it was Skub. Like, it was sealed in concrete in my mind. Trying to undo that hasn't been easy.
Let's go ahead and get started. Just for my records, can you say your name?
Sure. It's George Howard Skub.
I'm here to uphold the law, and the law is the law. But that scumbag doesn't belong on the streets. One slip up, one thought of putting his hands on somebody in this city, I'm putting him away for good.
Okay, so go ahead and tell us about your childhood.
I mean, what do you want me to say? I tortured turtles and killed cats? No, it was a normal Pennsylvania upbringing. I mean, we vacationed in the Finger Lakes. We took the trip to Disneyland. We did the whole high school field trip to Manhattan. I played drums in the high school band, and to be honest, at the time, I was a bit of a nerd.
Did you go to college?
No, I wasn't that big on the idea of college, so I went to sales right out of school. I was actually able to get in a local company and made a decent living for myself and my wife.
You were married. I actually wasn't aware of that. What happened?
I'd actually rather not talk about that, if that's all right.
Oh yeah, I went to middle school and a little bit of high school with Skub's wife. She was so sweet. I mean, we lost track of each other after high school. And in like 2009, I found out that she died of pharyngeal cancer from Facebook, of all places. I mean, the whole situation is just so sad. But it wasn't until years later that I connected she was Skub's wife.
Let's just switch gears a little bit. I'm going to ask you something very bluntly, just to frame the rest of this interview. Are you the Scranton Strangler?
No.
Of course he's going to plead his innocence. You're giving him a platform to propagate his lies on.
They caught the Scranton Strangler. They trapped him in his house.
Okay, so walk us through the series of events here. When did you first hear about the Stranglings?
I mean, I think like most people. I mean, Scranton isn't that big. You hear about, hey, this girl was strangled by Alfredo's, or oh, hey, this guy was choked behind the bowling alley. You know, it didn't mean that much to me until the cops came kicking in my door telling me that I was ID'd at the scene.
Right, that was the O'Kearney case, right, back in September?
Yeah. It was about a year or so after my wife passed. My company found out that I was being investigated for the Stranglings, and they just dropped me like a bag of potatoes.
Is believed to be inside. Police have now surrounded.
So the police report, November 11th, 2010, says that you refused to answer any more questions for the police. Then you barricaded yourself in your one-bedroom ranch and refused to open up the door threatening to shoot anyone who attempted to enter. You exited unexpectedly, somehow managing to get to your blue-green sedan, leading the police on a high-speed chase through the city. And all of that ended with you pulling over and giving yourself up. Can you walk us through what you were thinking that day?
Yeah, put yourself in my shoes. It's really not that complicated. I felt backed into a corner. I'd lost everything that I had. The police were making me out to be some sort of monster that I wasn't, so I did what many people would do and I snapped. I made some bad choices, but I mean, ultimately, I pulled over and gave myself up, and that's what should matter.
So we're responding to a 1097 nonviolent call for backup as some investigators went to interview Skub for like the 5th time. I guess they wanted to catch him in some sort of story screw up. I don't know. I wasn't working that case directly.
Police is surrounded.
And we now see what appears to be a SWAT van
SWAT's
pulling up.
arriving.
By the time we got in there, it had already turned into a total shat show. Skub locked himself inside, refusing to answer the questions. These investigators wouldn't let it go and say he shot a gun. Of course Scud says none of that's true, but he's a lowlife, so what do I care what he has to say? Anyways, we got his place surrounded and he somehow still makes the slip and just takes off.
But he's wishing he had a hybrid, right? 60 miles to the gallon in the city.
No, I bet he's wishing he was strangling someone.
Okay, that's our street.
So where were you going?
It's actually kind of complicated. I don't think that some of it I can legally say just yet, but the short of it was that I'd literally become obsessed to figure out who the Scranton Strangler was, and I knew the cops had their eyes on me, but obviously I'm not the guy. So when I got to the car, I tried to lead the police to really the only lead that I had, which was in the vicinity of that stupid office park.
That's our street. He's going down our street. Come on! Okay, everybody.
Go.
There it is! There it is! I saw it! Where? I saw it!
Can you believe all the weird coincidences with that documentary? And anyway, by the time I was flying down the road, I realized this whole thing was so stupid and it made me look guilty, and that I don't even think that those jurors ever really even gave me a chance.
Right. As you know, your mistrial was mainly predicated on the American Workplace documentary, which aired on PBS back in 2013. One of your jurors was actually on that reality show. Have you watched the documentary?
Yeah, so PBS is actually one of the few channels that we got back in prison. And a bunch of us were in the rec room one night and look over and the documentary comes on the TV. Yeah, I didn't think much of it until that diversity training episode when the juror shows up out of the blue and I can literally feel my blood start to boil. I mean, I was filled with a little bit of rage, as you can imagine.
That's interesting. So Toby Flinderson, the HR rep from Dunder Mifflin, his verdict actually led to your conviction. But then his statements on the documentary not only inspired the masses to come to your aid, but they ultimately led to enough evidence to overturn the sentencing.
Oh, I know. And that is even more complicated.
So who do I think the real Scranton Strangler is? I've done a lot of work here. I've done all the work here. And I've seen the timelines, and I've seen the interviews, and I've seen the police reports. I've seen all of these things. And I know that they are all intertwined to the American Workplace documentary. Think about all the weird connections. You have Jim and Pam and Baby being born at the same time. A full article is taken out in the Scranton newspaper about the Stranglings.
This frame set me back 55 bones, but she decided to take her sweet time, so now I have to switch it with today's paper.
All the time he's mentioned.
Scranton Strangler.
The Scranton Strangler. The Scranton Strangler.
The Scranton Strangler.
Scranton Strangler.
Scranton Strangler.
The Scranton Strangler.
Scranton Strangler! Thank you, Scranton Strangler. Scranton Strangler.
The Scranton Strangler.
The Scranton Strangler.
Sure.
Scranton Strangler.
All the time he's mentioned. It's just the fact that that Skub's car was in the parking lot at Dunder Mifflin. The fact that Toby Flinderson becomes a juror and then becomes obsessed about the Stranglings after that, it says something about a false sentencing, right? I mean, the documentary happened, and this insane amount of evidence just pops up. The biggest question of this documentary, and I'm not the only one out there that believes this, what if one of the subjects of the American Workplace documentary on PBS is the Strangler, just hiding in plain sight?
These wackadoos and their half-baked ideas, we got the guy, and he got off on a technicality, but the investigation is still open.
Who do you think the Strangler was?
I mean, I've heard the theories.
Oh, man, there are tons of people in this documentary who could be the Strangler. Dwight Schrute.
White Schrute. Thank you, Mr. Schnute.
Physically imposing. He's over 6 feet tall, and he's consistently out of touch with reality.
Sort of control things with my mind. I don't believe you. Continue.
And exhibits some of the most strange control of anger I've ever seen. His connections with the Scranton PD are subject at best, and the perfect alibi to pin the Stranglings on someone else.
To my chickens, I'm the Scranton Strangler.
Then there's Gabe, who suspiciously shows up around the first times of the Stranglings. He definitely has violent tendencies.
Shut up about the sun!
Walk away, bitch.
And he's not easily ruled out as a suspect.
You don't want to get on my bad side. I've seen some horrible things. I own over 200 horror movies.
Okay. And then there's Michael Scott. Jeez, man. Everybody thinks that guy is just this doe-eyed village idiot. But there's something there, guys. There's something there.
You know what? I have a bunch of letters cut out of magazines in my desk. You can use those.
He's got something underneath the surface, and he's scary. He's scary. And I think he even talks about having a loaded gun in the desk, right?
Damn, I have a loaded gun in my desk at work.
I'm not saying it's him. I'm just saying it could be not him, too. There's something more sinister at play. Really, I mean, if you really get down to it, everybody's a suspect. Jim, nice guy. Oh, he wouldn't do anything wrong. Really?
Hey, Jim.
Not now, Toby, my God.
Jesus. Get the hell out of here, idiot. What did I do?
Do you see what he did with he was just a little stressed out by Dwight?
Crazy. I can't reconnect with you right now. Hold on 1 second.
Oh!
I mean, he could have done some permanent damage right there, right? And he didn't even blink an eye. And he treats Dwight for years with sociopathic behavior, right? I mean,
Someone replaced all my pens and pencils with crayons. I suspect Jim Halpert.
I ought to be able to cut my...
Everyone has called me Dwayne all day. I think Jim Halpert paid them to.
What is going on? What are you doing?
Jim Halpert said there was an abandoned infant in the woman's room. When I went to save the child, I saw Meredith on the can.
So from time to time, I send Dwight faxes. From himself. From the future.
Every time I typed my name, it said diapers.
Louder, son! Bud Liquor! Our prices have never been lower!
Okay, stop it! That is totally inappropriate. This morning, I knocked myself in the head with the phone.
That actually took a while. I had to put more and more nickels into his handset until he got used to the weight. And then I just took them all out.
Where is my desk?
That is weird.
Oh, dude. How did...
Knock it off, okay? I'm interviewing you. No, you said that I'd be conducting the interview when I walked in here. Now, exactly how much pot did you smoke?
This morning, I found a bloody glove in my desk drawer, and Jim Halpert tried to convince me I committed murder. I think he may be the real murderer.
Creed Bratton, holy crap. I mean, that guy, That guy's definitely insane.
I'm 30. Well, in November I'll be 30.
Holy crap. I mean, the dude is literally hiding from the law in plain sight. Who does that?
During that time, the police say he sold drugs and trafficked in endangered species meat and stole weapons-grade LSD from the military.
The dude is definitely a suspect, right?
I live by the quarry. We should hang out by the quarry and throw things down there.
Todd Packer, Kevin Malone, Oscar Martinez, Andrew Bernard, David freaking Wallace. They're all hiding something. They're all capable of terrible things. And any one of them could be the Strangler.
Well, no. None of the Dunder Mifflin employees were suspects at that time.
What about now?
I can't say. There's an active, ongoing investigation.
Oh, everyone has their theories. I mean, it's all over the place. I've watched The American Workplace about 20 times now, and I keep catching little things. After hearing all those theories on Reddit and stuff, I definitely think it was Toby.
Probably Toby.
But Toby Wyatt Flenderson. Yeah, two people can play the 3-name game. You see what I did there? Toby Wyatt Flenderson.
Welcome. I'm Tony.
He's suspect number 1. He's the Kaiser Sose of subjects. Literally from day 1 of the documentary, he fits every bill. Every check mark on the sociopathic checklist, he checks. He's by and large extremely terrifying.
Toby.
The fact that the cops never looked at him as a subject is alarming at worst and criminal at best. Think about what was going on in his life at the time of the show. I mean, he clearly had a thing for Pam.
So did you hear?
What?
Pam's back on the market again.
Really? She's dating? Hey, Pam.
Hey, what's up?
I just completely forgot what I was going to say. It's so weird.
Okay.
But Jim was more aggressive than him.
Pam. Sorry. Are you free for dinner tonight?
Yes.
All right. Then it's a date.
And Jim and Pam were only months away from getting married when the Stranglings started. Coincidence? I think Toby was jealous of Jim, but not because of Pam. Toby was jealous over Jim's assertiveness. And I think Toby wanted to start asserting himself by choking people.
So I know I have one burning question that I think everybody has. If you are innocent, what happened that day with Mr. Flenderson when he came to visit you in prison?
Toby, you cannot keep blathering on about this Scranton Strangler. Do something about it. Get it out of your system, whatever it takes.
I'm going to the prison this afternoon. Gonna talk to the Strangler. Toby Flenderson, here to see George Howard Skub. This is the prison. I will meet George Howard Skub. I will tell him that I believe he is innocent.
Well, the good news is no more guilty conscience. At least you know he is the Strangler. The proof is in the grip.
I think we're all set up. Can you give me your name and your profession?
Yeah, of course. My name is John Weiler, and I'm a criminal profiler for the FBI.
Okay, so what is your process and your output?
Well, it's not much different from a standard psychologist. We put together the pieces of an individual based on evidence collected, first-hand accounts, and what we know from the digital paper trails to profile a suspect. The goal of this is to sometimes help law enforcement know a little more about the individual committing crimes, and sometimes it's used to help identify patterns in the suspect's activity.
Okay, so you are familiar with the Scranton Strangler case, so give us some thoughts.
Well, like most things, some things are easy to identify on the surface, and some are not. The fact that the Strangler didn't commit murder, not even once, tells me that the crimes were a lot more about the psychological state of the individual rather than targeted attacks against the victim. Based on forensics and victim reports, police concluded that the suspect here, the Strangler, was a man ranging from about 5'10" to 6'3". Most of the victims of the Stranglings were women or smaller than average men. This would lead us to believe that the Strangler is desperate for some sense of control in their life, as they avoided any and all physical altercations, opting to surprise attack each victim. The Strangler covered his face, wore a long coat and a hat, which definitely indicates that they weren't ready for anyone to really know who they were. This could indicate that the individual is emotionally masked and hidden as well. With the Strangler's ability to assert their dominance physically, one could assume he has some sort of martial arts training. The Strangler's ability to know when to let off to ensure the victim didn't fully suffocate probably means that the perp is educated, maybe even understands the respiratory system or is CPR trained. There was some evidence that the victims were resuscitated after their stranglings. The mere act of strangling someone face to face is an intimate act, meaning that this person might feel alone in life and is attempting, along with the sense of control, to emulate intimacy. It's also very possible that these stranglings were intertwined with the victim's sexual appetite. The act of strangling was an aphrodisiac, and if not the criminal act itself, maybe just the heightened sense of importance or the sense of satisfaction gained from knowing that they were hiding so well.
So you've read the psych profile on Skub. Do you think that he fits the bill for the Scranton Strangler?
Well, this wasn't my case, and it's definitely not my job.
Well, just speculation.
Yes, Skub fit some of the marks here. His height, his lack of alibis, his loneliness, his dead-end job, his need for intimacy, and his brashness were all marks. It's just
what?
Everything we know about the Strangler would suggest that he was non-confrontational. My psych eval concluded that this individual would not put up a fight if he were confronted with the truth. And Skub, on the other hand, definitely put up a fight.
So what are you saying?
I don't think it's definitely Skub.
What happened that day with Mr. Flenderson when he came to visit you in prison?
This guy comes in the room, he sits down right across from me, he looks me dead in the face, and this guy tells me, he says that he was the Strangler.